Yeah. Okay. So, Evan, I have a few questions in front of me, and
Yeah.
I'll be asking them. Okay. So, our first question is from Anushka, and
Okay.
she asks, it's about leadership, and she's
Yeah.
asking, what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have regarding leadership?
That you should want people to win more than you want them to win with you.
Okay.
Good leaders want their teammates to win more than win at your company. So sometimes the best thing is that they actually grow so much that they shouldn't be with your business anymore. And
I see.
a lot of leaders, what they do is they get threatened. They're worried about losing that person, and so they trap them. And
Mhm.
what you end up getting is that person's mind, but not their heart and soul.
I
You want their heart
see.
and soul. So you have to want them to win more than you want them to win with you.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay. So, okay, Anushka is asking another question. Okay. So, what are some important elements of leadership that can be learned during your teenage years? So, our TED Club is it's a club of 17 teenagers, and so what happens is that these are things that we are not taught in school.
Yeah,
So, many of these questions arise.
yeah,
So, yeah,
uh,
yeah,
yeah. I think it's just so leadership is around working with, managing, and leading other people. So that you can get in a leadership position, then you should do it. You should say yes. You should volunteer. There's so many opportunities that come up where uh, people are asking for an opinion. People say, "Who
mm-hmm.
wants to help out? Who wants to lead this thing?" Like practice raising your hand. That's scary.
Right, yeah,
When somebody says like, "Who? What do you think we should do?"
mm-hmm.
Everybody's quiet, and then somebody
I know.
raises their hand. Like practice being the you think of something, you got an idea, practice raising your hand. Practice saying, "Here's what I
Exactly.
think we should do." And it may be wrong, it may be shot down, it may not be the right thing, but get used to it. That if there's a situation, I'm going to be the first person in. Somebody needs a volunteer,
Mhm.
I'm going to be the first one to go. Practice being the leader. Practice being the first, because once the first person goes, then it gives permission for the
Mhm.
other people to go. Oh, they went.
Exactly,
Okay, that's
yeah.
what it looks like. Okay, no, be the first. Be the first to raise your hand. Be the first to say yes. Practice it. It's scary. Like your heart will be beating and you'll be nervous. And like, oh, I don't know if no. Put your hand up. Pick me. Let's
Mhm.
go. The more you practice
I
that
see.
now, it builds that muscle, so you're ready and you get the training as you get older.
Right. So practicing raising your hand and asking questions. Yeah.
And saying yes.
Hmm. I see. Okay. So our next question is from Dhruv, and he asks, how important is it for a person to attend college of higher education just because people recommend it, rather than doing something which you feel is a more appropriate step towards achieving your goal? Okay, so what happens is that many people think that after school, college is the next logical step. So Dhruv wants to know, should you go to college or should you do something which you feel is more appropriate towards achieving your ulterior goal?
So a couple of things. One, it
Mm-hmm.
depends on the career that you want to get into.
Okay,
If you want to be a doctor, you have to go to college.
exactly.
If you want to be a lawyer, you have to go to college. You can't be a
Mm-hmm.
doctor or a lawyer without going to school. It's just you're not, at least a traditional doctor. You're not gonna make it in. You have to go to school. To be an entrepreneur, you don't have to go to school. So
Mm-hmm.
understanding what is the ambitions that you have and what career you want to get into is the first starting
Mm-hmm.
point.
I see.
The next step is considering, for a lot of people, going to college is going to be a family choice. You're going because your
Exactly. That
parents
is,
want you
yeah.
to go.
Mm-hmm.
My parents want me to go and go to this college, but I don't want to go. And so you have to decide if that's worth it or not. At some point, and this is cultural specific. You know,
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
what 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 um what country are you calling me from here?
I'm calling from India.
Great. So Indian culture is not the same as Canadian culture.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so at some point you have to decide though, are you going to live your life or your parents' version of your life?
I
Like
see.
at what age do you become an adult? Is it
Mm-hmm.
18? Is it 30? Are you going to be 50 and still doing what your parents want you to do? Like, when do you just say, I want to do my thing? I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm not trying to
Mm-hmm.
make the family
I
name,
get that. I get that.
you
Yeah.
know, I'm not trying to get in your face, but at some point, right? Like, so when you're talking to them, at some point, you need to decide that this is your life and you're going to live it, because when you get older, you can't blame your parents.
Exactly.
You can't blame your parents for the life that you ended up with. When you're 5 years old, you could blame your parents. You know, like if your dad hit you when you were 5 and you have a scar on your leg, like, that's not
Mm-hmm.
your fault. That's his. But if you're 18 and now you're an adult and you're off doing something that you don't want to do, that's not that's not their fault anymore. That's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you willing to live with the repercussions? Are you willing, like, do they kick you out of the house? You know, or are you going to stop taking money from them? You know, it's easy for you to want to do what you want to do, but you're taking money from them. So are
Mm-hmm.
you willing to walk away from that? You know, it's your choice.
Yeah.
Are you willing to choose to maybe not be at the next family dinners for a while because it's just a fight? But ultimately, it'll make everyone happier. Like, it may be a rough couple of years, but then you're off doing your thing. Having ultimately, your parents want you to be successful. Like, if you go on
Mm-hmm.
and be a success, nobody's going to remember if you went to school or not.
Exactly. So, what
So
age would you
those are the
like?
things you
Yeah.
have to work through. Those are the things you have to work through.
Okay. I see. So, what age would you recommend in which a person should be able to take his or own decisions?
That's a judgment call. I don't know. You know, like, are you ready? Do you feel you're ready? But you can't blame your parents. If you're doing something that you
Mhm.
don't like, you can't blame your
Exactly.
parents anymore. You can't.
Hmm.
So you say,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
a choice that I'm making. I'm making this choice to go to school and keep going, even though I want to be an entrepreneur and this education is not going to help me. I am still making that choice for me because I value the relationship and I don't want to be. I want to be able to go to dinners with my family.
Hmm.
I'm making that choice. It's me. I'm deciding to do that. It's not that I'm being forced to do it.
I see. So it's more of a thing of prioritizing. I mean, whatever matters most to
Hopefully,
you.
yeah.
Okay.
But if you absolutely hate it, like, you can't. Your parents are not the reason. You can't put the blame on them. That's the most important
Hmm.
thing. People put the blame on their parents. You're an adult now. You make choices. Your great grandparents were going to war at this age. They were
Hmm.
fighting wars at this age.
Exactly.
Now you're
Yeah.
you're old. You're old enough. If you're 5 again, okay, great. No, but you're 18. You're an adult. You can make a decision on your own.
Hmm.
You have to.
I think, yeah, exactly. I completely agree with that. But what happens is, I mean, it's not only with India. I mean, in most of the Asian culture, I mean, children are taught to absolutely obey their parents, and this is something which sometimes clashes with decisions like this.
Right. So you have to decide, do I want to accept what culture
Yeah.
has put on me, or do I want to do my own thing? Like, if your parents don't like that you're talking to some Canadian guy right now and you know doing
Okay.
this video, if they
Mhm.
say, no, you're not allowed to do that, you need to stop, then what do you do? Do you stop or do you keep going? You have to make that decision. And again, it's a decision out of what you want to do. Not You're not trying to make your parents upset. You're
Mhm.
not trying to cause harm. You're not trying to disrespect the family name. You're just trying to live your life. And the
I
people
see.
who end up winning the most are the ones who don't just follow societal norms. Like, if
Exactly.
you want to create something different, you have to be willing to live differently.
Mhm.
That's the cost. If you want to create
Exactly.
something different, you have to be willing to live differently. If you're going to live the same way as everybody else, don't expect to create something amazing.
Yeah, and then the cost is regrets. I mean, what if I could have, or what if I could have done that?
I hate that. Like, I hate the opportunity cost. I hate regret. Regret is a thing that I put so much pain in myself. Like, if I really want to do something and my parents would say no, I would imagine my life at 100, looking back and saying, man, I regret that I didn't do that thing. And I would then force myself to go off and do it. Because the biggest regrets are very rarely the things we did. The biggest regrets are the things we
Mm-hmm.
didn't do, that we wanted to do, but we were
Yeah.
too afraid. We weren't bold enough. The advantage of where you're at and your club is that you're still so young. You have so much ahead of you. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're 90 and 100 and you're looking back, it's like, man, there's no time left. You can't redo it.
Exactly.
So
So
if
it's
you think
basic.
that you're going to regret, if you think you're going to regret not doing it, then you have to do it. You have to do it.
I see. So whether your parents say no or not.
And then you have
I
to live
see.
with it. And like, this is your time
Mhm.
now to be, are you going to be you know, here's what happens. Like, do you have any pets?
No, I do not. But
Okay,
many
so
people, yeah.
what's the most common pet? What's the most common pet in India?
It's usually a dog. It's
Okay, a
usually a
pet dog,
dog. Yeah.
right? So I have two dogs.
Okay.
Uh, those dogs, my two dogs, would die in the wild. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you put the dog to live for themselves, they would die. They
Mm-hmm.
would die. Like, they
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to get food for themselves. They would die. They'd get killed like instantly by some other animal, like right away.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents are training you to be a pet dog,
Okay.
and at some point you need to be able to break free of
Provide
that.
for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and be your own animal and not die when you get out into the wild.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. That's an interesting analogy.
And they'll end up respecting you more. They may
Mm-hmm.
disagree with you now, but they'll end up respecting you more because you went off and made your own name for yourself and not just
I
stayed
see.
being a dog. You don't respect your dog.
Mm-hmm.
You love your dog, but you don't respect
Yeah,
your dog.
exactly.
Yeah, so
I get the point.
don't be a trained dog.
Be a wild one.
Yeah, like go survive. Be a real king of the jungle, right? You got to get out there. At some point, you're gonna have to fend for yourself. You're gonna have to live for yourself. And if you end up in a career that you don't like if you end up being a doctor just because your parents want you to be a doctor, you'll never be a great doctor, and you'll live a
Mhm.
really unhappy life.
Yeah, I know people like that. Yeah, it's sad. Okay, so the next question is from. Okay, it's a common question. Okay, so what happens is during this age, 11th grade and 12th grade, so we have a lot of coursework from our school. I mean, what happens is that our passing depends on the National Board of Education, that is
Okay?
CBSE, and the course load that they recommend is a lot more than what more developed countries have, for example, Canada or the US. So what happens
Okay?
is that many students get burnt out before the exams, before the main exams. So how exactly would you suggest avoiding burnout? Or I mean, if you're already in that phase, how would you suggest, recovering basically?
So whenever I look at these kind of problems, I one look at do I have to be here? Do I have to do this thing? Right? If you're in a
Mhm.
situation you don't like, do you have to do it? So like, do you have to do it? Do you have to pass that test? Do you have to? Uh, and if it's no, then don't and go do something else. If it's
We
yes, I
don't really
have to
have a
do it.
choice, yeah.
Yeah. So no, well,
Yeah.
there's always a choice. It's the choice to continue doing it. If the choice is yes, I have to do this thing, then how do I make the best of the situation? How do I hack it? So I'm not complaining all the time. I'm not negative all the time. I'm not frustrated all the time because when you are trying to do something, when you're trying to study, when you're trying to learn, when you're trying to absorb information, if you're frustrated and angry, you're not going to absorb it very well. It's going to take you a lot
Exactly, it's
longer,
not effective. Hmm.
right? So I'm if you're if you it's like you need to decide. You have a choice. You may not like
Hmm.
either choice, but it's still your choice. Your choice is I'm going to continue to do this. So stop blaming, same thing, stop blaming the school and stop blaming your parents and stop blaming, this is my choice. I want to finish. I'm going to finish this. It sets me up
Hmm.
for maybe future success. It's a backup plan. If my business doesn't go well, I have a backup plan that I can go get a job or get into the next school. Great. I'm making a choice to do it. When you accept responsibility for it, then you stop complaining about it. You stop getting so negative about it. When you just
Mm-hmm.
blame your parents, I can't believe I have to do this stupid test. I got to study, and it's so much harder here in India than in Canada. And you're just you're losing time. You're wasting
Mhm.
your time. It's not productive. So, but it starts with because you haven't taken the responsibility. You haven't decided that you're doing this. I decided
Yeah.
to do this because you don't have to. You just don't like the alternative. What's the alternative? Well, you have to go. You have to go fend for yourself. You have to go start your own business. You're by yourself. You're on your own. You don't like that alternative, so you feel like you have to, but you don't. You're picking. So you take your responsibility. Then when you do that, it's hacking your style of learning. So for me, I was never a great crammer, like last minute,
Exactly. Exactly.
stay up
Yeah.
all night and try to finish off
Mm.
my tests while I'm partying the rest of the week. So I like planning stuff out. I would reverse engineer it. I'd say, okay, I need to study to get to this test. It's happening on this day. The test is in March, and now it's
Mm.
December. So I've got my 3 months, 3.5 months to do it. What is
Mhm.
it, what does my study schedule look like? And I like creating consistent habits. So I'll look at my schedule. I'll see where am I going to study, where does it fit into my life, and then I'll do what's in my calendar, so that I'm studying every week as much as I need to study while doing my other stuff as well, so that I'm ready when the test comes, and then I'm not struggling 3 days before the test and I haven't done any research or any homework, and now
Mhm.
I have to spend the next 3 nights of not sleeping and having coffee and just staying up and killing myself to do it.
Mhm.
So it's hacking yourself. Maybe you need accountability. Maybe you need to study with a partner. Maybe you need to get out of your house and study, and you need to study in a coffee shop. Maybe you need
I
absolute
see.
silence, and you stay in your room and you put your headphones on. Um, but I think for a lot of people, it's just the fact that you're just so negative about it. You're just complaining about it. You're just still blaming
I see.
your parents for having to do this thing. And every second you spend negative thinking about this thing is a second that you're spending not doing the thing. If you
Mhm.
took all that negative energy around studying and you just studied, you would get it done. And then you'd have way more time to
Yeah.
do everything else that you're doing. But you're spending time complaining about it, talking to your friends and complaining to them about it, instead of just doing the work because you haven't decided.
I
You
see.
need, so this is such an important time. Like if you're talking about 17, 18, 19, 16, this becomes an important time of when do you decide to become an adult? And
Right.
adulthood is about accepting responsibility for your life. So when do you decide? Are you going to wait another 5 years of just complaining and being your parents' dog, or are you going to decide now? And when you decide, you stop complaining, and that becomes a
I
super
see.
important step to building the life that you want to build.
I see. That's really insightful. I mean, I'm pretty sure many people had not thought about it that way. Okay. So, next question is from Vedanshi, and she asks, "You suggest being the best at one thing is much better than being just okay in many. Yet, how are we supposed to achieve this when everyone expects you to be an all-rounder?" So, what happens is that, I mean, this also comes down to our student life. So, I mean, again, in many tests, we have different subjects, and we're expected to score well in all of them. So, that's again being an all-rounder.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
So school
So,
life is not a great example for real life,
okay.
because in real life you get rewarded for being great at something.
Mm-hmm.
Like whoever your favorite athlete is, maybe he's a cricket player, your favorite cricket player of all time. Maybe sucks at writing.
Yeah.
And so the people who win are ones who become amazing at something. And it may be amazing
Mm-hmm.
at two or three things and you combine into one. That's what you do uniquely. But society doesn't reward people who are okay at everything. It's just not how it
I
works.
see.
Now, you can say I've decided to stay in school. I've decided that I want to get good grades, and so I'm going to force myself to bring up my weaknesses for school, even though I know that this is not going to help me in life. Most
Mm-hmm.
of the stuff that you're studying now, you're going to forget. I don't use any of my courses from school,
Okay.
but I don't regret going to school either. I chose to go to
Okay.
school. I chose to finish high school. I chose to finish university. I did 4 years. I did an undergrad in commerce and finance. I
Okay. You are
chose to
from
do
U
that.
Toronto, yeah.
If I go back, if I'm 19, 18, and I go back, I would still probably do it again because I wasn't 100% sure that I wanted to be an entrepreneur yet. And so
I
I
see.
did it as a backup plan. And then I used school to hack my business growth.
Okay.
So I don't think you need to, I think you do what you need to do to get your test scores up. Know that, like, don't complain. This is the game you signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
This will not help you in real life. Okay. I'm still gonna crush it in school because I said I'm gonna finish it and I want to finish strong. But when you get out into the real world, then you need to get great at something, at one or two things, and forget almost everything else.
I see. Okay. So it's really more about making your own choices and accepting the responsibilities that come with it.
For everywhere, for everything. You're an adult now. You
Mm-hmm.
need to learn to be an adult. And it's
Yeah.
fun being a kid. But when you're a kid, you're your parents' dog and you need to do what your parents say to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to do what your parents say to do, then you need to become an adult.
Yeah.
So you
It's as
pick.
simple as that.
I'm not judging. Like, be a kid. Great, awesome. Be when you're 30, you can still be a kid, but just don't complain about it. You chose that.
Mm-hmm.
You chose to live under your parents' house, and so you have to go with your parents' rules. And if they don't, they're going to be upset, and they deserve to be upset.
Exactly.
If you want to go and be an adult, then go be an adult. Now it's living your life, but you have to accept the responsibility and the consequences of that too.
I see. Wow. Okay. So, okay. So our next question is, how do you differentiate constructive criticism from, simple discouragement or belittlement?
So if somebody's just telling you that you're stupid, it doesn't help anything,
Yeah. Hmm.
right? Hey, you're stupid. Like, that idea is never going to work. You're so stupid. Okay, well, great. It doesn't help me. Um, but you have to be careful that you don't only accept feedback in one way, because sometimes the best feedback is hidden in a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So if you're starting a YouTube channel, and the only
Mhm.
way you'll take feedback is if it's sugar coated. It's like, hey, I think you're great. I think you have an amazing idea. I think you'll do really well. But I think this is like one little thing, like this thing. Maybe if you fix it, I think would do well. But I think you're gonna do, like, if that's the only way that you hear feedback. If I have to give you 18 compliments so that you'll hear the one negative feedback,
Mhm.
then you're gonna lose,
Yeah.
because that's not how most people work, right? So most of the time, you'll get feedback that will come from really negative people that may have a little bit of truth. Like, you're such an idiot, you're so stupid, this will never work because of this.
Hmm.
If there may be logic into this, there may
Yeah.
be logic in their answer, even though they're giving you so much crap and negativity, and they're rude and they're mean and they're angry, nasty people. Don't write that off, because there's still a little kernel of truth. And if you can
Hmm.
take that kernel of truth and make your idea better, then they've given you a gift.
Yeah.
But you haven't heard the gift because you're too
Because of the
offended by
negativity. Yeah.
the feedback, right? So that's the thing. In most criticism, there's actually a kernel of truth. There's a little piece of truth in there, but most people are unwilling to hear it
Hmm.
because they are just offended by the rudeness. So
I see.
learn to learn to hear through the rudeness, not be offended by the rudeness. Like, if you came on here and you said, Evan, I hate you. You're like the worst YouTuber of all time, and you don't profile enough women on your channel. Great. I could hear, maybe I need to profile more women on my channel. Awesome. Even though you think I'm a total idiot. Great. I don't care about that. I'm always looking for, how do I get better? When I
Improve.
go to
Yeah.
events and there's people that I respect that I know we're getting close on time, but when I go to events and there's people who I respect and I want their feedback, I'll start off with, I want you to tell me that I'm an idiot. Like, I
Okay.
want you to tell me why I'm an idiot. Tell me, I don't want somebody saying, Evan, you're an idiot. But I want them to tell me why I'm doing stuff that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll lead really negatively like that. Like, tell me I'm an idiot. And they'll usually say, well, you're not an idiot, but if you did these things, you could get better. And I lead with such a negative position because it gives them permission to be critical. I want criticism. You should want criticism.
Mm-hmm.
When people are watching your show, you should show it to people and say, tell me why this show sucks. Tell me how
Mm-hmm.
to make it better. Like, I know that I suck. How do I get better? Right?
I see.
Seek out the criticism. And they may come on with a million different ideas that don't resonate with you or are flat out mean, like just
Mm-hmm.
mean. But then there's still 2 or 3 things they say that can help you. And as long as there's one thing in there that is good feedback, say, great,
Yeah.
awesome. I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you have some more time, or are there more interviews lined up? Because there are few more questions.
Yeah. Yeah. We're running out. I gotta head off to another interview, but I
Okay.
love the questions, man, and I think a lot of it still comes down to the just taking accountability and
Mm-hmm.
figuring out at what point in life do you want to decide I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
This is my life, and that's scary, but it's also the
Yeah.
most
It's
empowering
worth it.
thing
Yeah.
of all time. Of all time, man. Like, you make that choice, your life has changed for the better forever.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then thank you so much for joining us, and have a good trip. All the
Joel, thank
best
you so
for
much.
your
It's
event.
been a blast. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Bye bye.